Why do some people post everything online? Every meal, every vacation, every milestone, while others could be living a full, meaningful life and you'd never know? Why do some people instinctively reach for their phone to share a moment, while others instinctively protect it? If you're an introvert, that silence is not random. It's not shyness. It's not social incompetence. And it's not because you don't have anything going on. The reasons many introverts avoid posting photos or personal updates on social media are deeply psychological. They are rooted in how introverts process stimulation, how they experience attention, how they regulate emotion, and how they define connection and meaning. To understand this, we first need to clarify something important. Introversion is not about social skill, it is about energy regulation. After a long social event, an extrovert may feel energized and stimulated. An introvert often feels drained. This does not mean they dislike the people around them. It means their nervous system processes external input more intensely. Research in personality psychology suggests that introverts tend to be more sensitive to dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward and novelty. High levels of stimulation, noise, conversation, movement, unpredictability can feel overwhelming more quickly. Now consider what social media is. It is a continuous stream of stimulation. Notifications appear unexpectedly, likes fluctuate, comments trigger evaluation, stories disappear, reels autoplay. There is constant novelty, constant comparison, constant visibility. Social media is not just communication, it is public exposure, layered with metrics. For someone wired for depth rather than intensity, this environment does not necessarily feel rewarding. It often feels exhausting. This is where the psychology begins to shift. Extroverts often process experiences externally. Sharing is part of how they integrate meaning. When something happens, they express it. Posting becomes an extension of the experience itself. Introverts, on the other hand, tend to process experiences internally first. Reflection precedes expression. Meaning develops privately before it is shared publicly. Turning every moment into content requires shifting from experiencing to presenting. It requires translating an internal state into an external performance. Imagine two friends at dinner. One takes out their phone immediately, adjusts the lighting, captures multiple angles, and posts the moment. The other remains engaged in conversation, observing, absorbing, staying present. The first is thinking about how the moment will look. The second is focused on how it feels. Neither approach is inherently right or wrong, but they reflect different psychological orientations. For many introverts, interrupting an experience to document it disrupts the experience itself. The act of posting can feel like stepping outside the moment rather than living inside it. Another layer involves validation systems. Social media operates through external reinforcement. Likes, comments, shares, and follower counts become visible indicators of response. Over time, the brain can associate attention with reward. However, introverts often rely more heavily on internal standards of evaluation. Instead of asking, "How did others react?" they ask, "How did this impact me?" If they enjoyed a trip, the memory is sufficient. If they accomplished something meaningful, the internal satisfaction carries more weight than public acknowledgement. This tendency is often described as an internal locus of evaluation, a reliance on internal values rather than external applause to define worth. When validation primarily comes from within, the urgency to broadcast decreases. Posting becomes optional rather than necessary. It is not that introverts reject approval entirely. It is that approval is not the primary driver of their emotional reward system. Because of this, social media engagement can feel less compelling. There is also the dimension of observation. Introverts are frequently described as observers first and participants second. They scan environments, notice patterns, and process social dynamics carefully. Over time, many introverts begin to recognize the structure of social media itself. It is curated, it is filtered, it rewards visibility and reaction. It often simplifies complex lives into highlight reels. To someone who values nuance and depth, this can create friction. Constant posting may begin to feel less like connection and more like self-branding. This does not mean introverts are morally opposed to social media. Rather, they may feel ambivalent about its incentives. The platforms reward frequency, exposure, and performance. Introverts often value intentionality, privacy, and authenticity. When those values conflict with platform design, withdrawal can feel like alignment rather than avoidance. Another psychological factor involves cognitive load. Introverts tend to process information deeply. They do not skim experiences superficially, they absorb them. Social media introduces hundreds of micro-interactions daily. Images, opinions, arguments, announcements, updates. For someone already sensitive to stimulation, this volume of input can create mental fatigue. Research has shown that excessive social comparison and information overload can contribute to anxiety and decreased well-being, particularly among individuals sensitive to evaluation. In this context, choosing not to post frequently can function as a form of self-regulation. It reduces exposure to constant comparison and decreases pressure to curate an identity. Instead of performing a life, introverts may prefer to live it privately and reflect afterward. There is also the issue of representation. Introverts often think in layers. They consider nuance and context before speaking. Social media compresses complexity into captions and images. A deeply meaningful experience may not translate easily into a brief post. Reducing it can feel inaccurate or incomplete. For someone who values precision, silence can feel more honest than oversimplification. Introverts also tend to prioritize depth over breadth in relationships. They often prefer a few strong, intimate bonds rather than a wide network of acquaintances. Social media, by design, emphasizes reach and visibility. It expands audiences rather than deepens individual interactions. While extroverts may find energy in broad engagement, introverts often invest energy selectively. They may choose to share something meaningful privately rather than publicly. A direct message, a phone call, or a quiet conversation can feel more authentic than a broadcast update. In a culture that equates visibility with relevance, opting out can appear like invisibility. But psychologically, the absence of posting does not equal the absence of connection. For many introverts, connection is defined by quality, not quantity. It is measured in depth, not display. There is also a subtle form of confidence embedded in this behavior. Choosing not to document every achievement or experience requires comfort without constant feedback. It requires security in one's internal narrative. When attention is not the primary reward, silence does not threaten identity. It supports it. Being comfortable without visibility suggests that one's sense of self is not entirely dependent on public affirmation. Interestingly, the same traits that reduce the impulse to post frequently, reflection, internal validation, observational awareness, are associated with creativity and emotional intelligence. Spending more time processing than performing can foster insight. Avoiding constant comparison can preserve clarity. Prioritizing authenticity over attention can strengthen close relationships. None of this suggests that introverts cannot enjoy or benefit from social media. Many do. Online platforms can provide community, creative expression, and meaningful connection when used intentionally. However, the psychological difference lies in motivation. For introverts, engagement is often deliberate rather than reflexive. Posting is considered rather than automatic. Ultimately, the psychology of why introverts don't post as frequently on social media is not about fear. It is about regulation. It is about orientation. It is about how attention feels in the body. how meaning forms in the mind, and how identity stabilizes internally. Silence, in this context, is not emptiness. It is preference. So, if you are someone who rarely posts, understand that your quietness does not indicate deficiency. Privacy does not equal insecurity. Choosing depth over display does not mean you are disconnected from the world. It may simply mean you experience it differently. The psychology behind introversion suggests that fulfillment does not always require visibility. Sometimes, the most meaningful experiences are the ones that remain unbroadcasted, lived fully, processed deeply, and remembered privately. If this perspective resonated with you, consider reflecting on your own relationship with attention. Do you post because you want to share, or because you feel you should? Do you feel energized after engaging online, or depleted? Understanding that difference can reveal more about your wiring than any personality label ever could. And if you're interested in exploring more of the psychology behind everyday behaviors and personality patterns, there is always more beneath the surface than what appears online. Conclusion: embracing your introverted nature. As we wrap up this exploration of the psychology of introverts and their relationship with social media, it's crucial to recognize the unique strengths that introverts possess. Their ability to connect deeply with themselves and others, their preference for authenticity over performance, and their thoughtful approach to engagement are valuable traits in our fast-paced digital world. In a society that often equates visibility with value, introverts remind us that there is profound meaning in silence, introspection, and depth. Embracing your introverted nature can lead to a richer, more fulfilling life, one that prioritizes quality connections, genuine experiences, and personal growth over fleeting online validation. So take a moment to appreciate your journey. Whether you choose to share your life online or keep it private, know that your experience is valid. Your voice matters, and your silence speaks volumes. If you found this discussion enlightening, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments. Do you relate to the introverted experience? Or have you found ways to balance introversion with social media engagement? Now drop a comment below and tell me. I read every single one. Let's continue this conversation. Thank you for joining me today as we delve into the intricate relationship between introversion and social media. Remember, there's always more to explore beyond the surface, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next video.